I'm so pleased to share with you this episode with Rachel Gross. Watch these clips as she discusses the amazing nuances of female sexual anatomy and how this knowledge could change women's health and empowerment today. And be sure to listen to the full episode where you listen to podcasts. In this clip, we talk about Freud and his role in a common diagnosis of hysteria, which was only removed from the DSM criteria in the 1980s. But many physicians still do refer us to psychotherapy rather than being heard when we talk to them about our pain.
The other one was his conception and popularization of hysteria, which was a concept that had sort of been dying for a while. And he ended up working with a French neurologist who really believed in hysteria and taking this idea and running with it. So the old idea of hysteria was that it was like your uterus wandering around your body in search of sex and motherhood and causing trouble. And Freud kind of switched it, and he said there are times when people are having like neurotic symptoms or cramps and pain and menstrual issues or a hysteric pregnancy, as he is described. And what's really at the root of it is psychological conflict, not an actual disease. And so I find that really profound because if you talk to people that have endometriosis or fibroids or other menstrual disorders, almost inevitably the first thing a doctor suggests is that they go to a therapist and they get antidepressants. And
Yep.
so exactly, I'm sure you know, like so many women and people with uteruses are just shunted to the psychological path, which really dismisses their real medical symptoms.
I'm sure you've heard so much about the number of nerve endings in the clitoris, and Rachel debunks that information.
Well, you may have heard that recently we debunked the myth that the clitoris has 8,000 nerves. That had been spread around the internet a lot, and people loved. I mean, there's a classic tweet that's like, the clitoris has 8,000 nerve endings, but still isn't as sensitive as a white man on the internet. Um, but
I have not seen that one.
well, it lives in my head rent free. Um, so we had to update that recently because a gender affirmation surgeon, a vulva specialist that I was talking to, they basically were like, "Hey, where did this number come from?"
It's important to know that whenever you're struggling with a given condition, you're likely not alone. Listen to Rachel's story. So tell us about that experience.
Yeah, this one was a case of my experience kind of leading me down a rabbit hole and realizing that a lot of people were struggling with this. So yeah, when I mentioned the common infection and the boric acid, that was for bacterial vaginosis, affects 1 in 3 women and can be it's very often recurrent where it's really hard to get rid of, and there's really no good answer. So I found this scientist, Dr. Carolyn Mitchell, who is basically doing the equivalent of fecal transplants, but with vaginal transplants. So, vaginal fluid, you can change your own vaginal ecosystem or microbiome by bringing in like a healthy, good ecosystem. And it makes a lot more sense than the current treatments like antibiotics or boric acid, which just like kill the entire ecosystem like they're the nuclear option and they don't guarantee that good stuff's going to grow back. So she was recruiting for this trial when I was writing the book. She actually got delayed because of the pandemic. But so I was able to talk with a couple people that were trying to get into it. And yeah, it was really remarkable how desperate a lot of them were to be part of something like this for both the hope of a solution to a problem that had been like plaguing them and their relationships for years, and to be part of science moving forward for like everyone else dealing with this.
And finally, the vaginal microbiome is getting so much attention, and Rachel shares with us the latest research on the vaginal microbiome based on all the interviews she conducted for her fabulous book. Have you kept in touch with the latest on how things are coming along with that research and being able to use this for the vaginal microbiome? Because the interviews I've done have been much more around just talking about the products you should or shouldn't use because the vaginal microbiome is so important. Um, and so I haven't actually kept up with the latest of the science because I just cover way too many topics. But as do you. But but maybe you're more in touch with the science of this one. Do you know where it's at
That this
lately?
one I'm still fascinated by. Yeah, so I believe that Dr. Mitchell's finishing her trial now, and there might even be other trials at this point. I know in the book I reported on, there was a promising but very small trial in Israel. So it looks like promising results are coming out, um, and it's that there still would be a long time probably to a commercial product, but there might be more opportunities for people to get these transplants at like hospitals if they qualify. The other promising thing is, right, I have also written about the vaginal probiotics on the market and the fact that the oral type that you swallow are not likely to work because they have to go through your whole gut. But in
Yep.
this country, we really don't have actual vaginal suppositories available because of FDA stuff. So there are groups working on the first true vaginal probiotics, which are way more promising, and I actually believe hold a lot of potential. It's just unfortunate because until now, and I'm sure you're super aware of this, that market has been a lot of like shady or just companies without a lot of data promising a
Right.
lot. So it would be great to get some like FDA approved stuff out there.
And we end on a fun fact. What is the second most common unplanned pregnancy timing?
Like
Yeah.
one thing I learned recently was that there's so much confusion over perimenopause when like the hormone fluctuations are just really high. Um, and some people like think they can't get pregnant then. So it's actually a problem with people in perimenopause getting pregnant when they don't want to because they're
Yep.
not given good information. So
Yep.
easily solvable.
That's right. And it's the second most um, common oops pregnancy.